was thinking about Vegeta because I just got back into Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about who my favourite character was and why. And then I've completely forgot how much I liked Vegeta. Because Vegeta is one of those guys that, yeah, he's got the bloodline of a pure Saiyan, but he does everything he can to get to that next level and be the best that he can be. And if he ever finds any sort of thing that's a little bit more powerful than him, he has to test it.
Yeah.
And he'll go out of his way to do it.
Yeah, fuck. A lot of people relate to that.
And I was thinking, like, fuck, how many people... It always relates back to martial arts really well, especially for a lot of anime. But for something like that, how you're always trying to strive to your truest and best potential, no matter what. And then he always puts himself in isolation to do it. And I think isolation is the key.
For training. Yeah.
Yeah.
For development. To take away distraction and then just get to work. Fuck. It's so important.
Yeah, it's such a power. Yeah. Isolation is power.
Even with everything happening right now, this is a massive opportunity. Opportunity is the key word there.
Yeah.
To try and see what you can do on your own. And there's a lot you can do on your own. Even just with, for example, from a training perspective. Now, whether or not you're lucky enough to have weights at home, I've got weights at home, so I'm going to utilize that. Battle rope, yep. But even if those things weren't there, shadow boxing. And shadow boxing to a really high degree. Instead of just shadow boxing for, movement and fitness, sitting there visualizing certain scenarios. Imagine just doing the same repetition of a certain move in your head, doing it, just shadow boxing. But at the same time, you're seeing the move play out, the reaction. Okay, jab, pull back, slip, cross. You can do that 100 times. And you've trained something that you would normally need multiple people to train.
Yeah.
And everything is there. The statistics show that training, visualization is a massive, massive part of development in everything. In that book, Peak by Anders Ericsson, where they talk about visual or mental representations as one of the defining factors that people who reach expertise engage in. Mental representation, just creating that image or that scenario and replaying it again in your head. How golfers can do it, and they can mimic each swing and each that they understand where everything's going to go based off of what they've represented in their head. So it's so powerful.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I remember learning about that through the PE textbooks in year 8, and they were talking about especially for Winter Olympic, I don't know what they're called, but those, how on the ski one, how you go down that massive slope,
and you got to do tricks.
Just the one jump, and then you do the aerial, and then you land and whatever. And they were saying how you can only do so many reps in a certain amount of seasons if you're going to get to travel as much. And they were saying how even just by sitting there visualizing how your arms are going to go to rotate, and you just keep doing it even if you're not flying, but you just keep visualizing how it would be, and even if you just mimic it with your arms slightly, and it would just feel the exact same, putting yourself through there. Because Dr. Joe Dispenza, he talks a lot about this, and he's a credible person if you want to look at his work, but he says about how your mind can't tell the difference between if it's real or not.
How could it? Because anything that's in front of us that we see is just input. It's just sensory input. If we see an image, as we know, it's being reflected, like light is being reflected off of certain things, and that enters your eye, and that's what your brain sees. So closing your eyes and seeing something, you're achieving or replicating pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, your brain can't tell the difference between either one. So it gets so that he was saying how neurons that fire together wire together. So if I fire the neurons of a punch coming at my face and I slip and I counter, every time I fire those neurons, they get tighter and they start to wire together. So then every time I see it in my head, or if I see it in real life, boom, I slip counter.
Same thing.
For whatever it is you want to do, if it's fighting or boxing, or if it's any other sport. Sport's
running.
Always a good one to do it, but if it's anything,
even visualizing,
even arguments. Someone yells at me, I stay calm and I respond calmly and efficiently.
You can visualize so many situations. Anything, you can visualize anything. You can visualize things that aren't possible by human things. You can do that just for a fun experiment anyway.
True.
It's like dreams. It's like you can dream during the day.
Dude, you know what I was doing the other day? I was when me and I just got back from a van trip, so me and Robbie went up down the coast, and when we were coming back down, I made it a very clear and purposeful thing. I really wanted to leave because we're doing that final stretch from here to Byron Bay, from Melbourne to Byron Bay is about 18-hour drive. So you usually do it in 2 breaks. You do 9 hours one day, sleep 9 hours the next day. And I wanted to come back because I have work the next day or whatever. But I wanted to come back. I wanted to drive overnight so I can see a good view of this, an uninterrupted view of the stars. So I would drive throughout the night, so like 2 a.m. or whatever. And I wanted to see how the stars would look without any city lights. And as I was doing it, we pulled up on this truck stop on a highway, and it was just dead. It was dead for ages, but the stars looked so good. And I like doing this thing whenever I see open stars. I put my hands up and I look and I swap between focusing on my hands and the stars. And it almost feels like I can reach them in a weird way. And I was literally practicing, what if I could just fly right now and fly up to the stars? And I was trying to like little jumps and shit. Nothing's working. Obviously I didn't fly. But I was just thinking what it would be like. And if I could put my mind to it, wouldn't it be the same experience, whether I did it or not? Not that I flew, but in my mind I flew. And I'm like, isn't that close enough? I'm like,
well,
whoa.
It really is. Because at the end of the day, like you said, if you can't differentiate between it, like your brain can't, then you're able to recreate something. It's like imagination and creativity is so, so important. Yeah. And like, there are so many levels. Now my brain's going in so many different ways. But dude, there are so many levels to everything, even just living. So when you just look at personal development, which is where me and you both started, just trying to say, okay, how can we just improve? You start first. It's like there's a process you have to go through. I can speak for myself. First, it's like, okay, you're reading the right materials and you get exposed to certain things and you go, okay, I need to be more disciplined. Okay, I need to be more organized. Okay, I need to do these things. I got to get good routines in place. And then from there, it's like you go it's like there are other levels. You start realizing, okay, then you got to look at some interpersonal things. You got to look at some intrapersonal things. Then you uncover more levels and you go, okay, you start looking a little bit more within. Okay, getting more comfortable with yourself, being more transparent, opening up a little bit. There's like more levels. And then at that point, I realized, okay, there's going to be levels to uncover all day long, no matter how far you grow. And then recently I started uncovering, after a few more different things I realized that are important to my own growth and developing. I realized, okay, creativity and imagination and having like a childlike mentality and playfulness, very, very important and pivotal to success in so many different ways, for sure. Even just in development, because number one, playfulness will let you be a bit more relaxed and enjoy. And when you enjoy, you can do things so much. You operate from a better, you operate much better in terms of performance when you're enjoying something than when you're not. So there you go. And then creativity, very important. How do you develop and create new things? How do you come up with, how do you overcome barriers? You need to get creative. When people say think outside the box, they're saying be creative. You hit a certain barrier, how do you get past it? Introduce new material, get a bit creative, figure it out. And then that imagination part is also massive, because imagination is also to do with potential and with limits. So what you think is this, okay? If you use your imagination to imagine for yourself something that you think is entirely possible, you create a scenario. If you tell that scenario to someone else, they might not even entertain the idea. It'll just be a fantasy to them. Like, that's so ridiculous. That's never going to be possible for anyone or for me. But if you allow yourself to be very, very creative and you allow your imagination to run wild, and then you believe what you're saying, dude, that's when you open up a massive, massive door for success. The reason why, let's say, in terms of self-belief and imagination, this is why they're so powerful together. If you do not believe you can do something, you won't even try. You won't ever even try. Just that alone tells you why you should have self-belief. If you sit there and you say, okay, I believe I can do this, you will never ever try to achieve something or accomplish something that you don't think is possible, which is ridiculous to think about.
Alright, it's fluent now.
Nice.
Edit that bit out. That is true.
Just think about it like that. If you do not, without self-belief, what can you accomplish? Because you will never try to accomplish things that you don't think are possible. If someone said to you, try and fly, you're not going to even try. Because of course, I don't think there's anyone that thinks it's possible for a human to just up and fly. So you're not going to even try. If you think, okay, this thing that I want to create, can I create it? Yes. Okay, I believe I can. Then you will try. That's why self-belief is important. If you don't believe you can do something, you're never going to try. You're never going to take the steps to try and accomplish it. So imagine tying that with imagination. Imagine having a real playful, creative imagination and then having a strong sense of self-belief. Then you're going to try and get a lot of things done. And in the process, we both know, regardless of whether or not you create, what you're going to get so much out of it.
Yeah, that's true. And I find that most people, when they get stuck on a problem or whatever it is, they get really rigid and tunnel vision on things. It always happens in certain movies. When I always think about the best example would be like a scientist that's been studying this line of work for his whole life, and he gets stuck on a problem because maybe he's thinking in a narrow box where he's thinking from certain principles, and usually a scientific principle shouldn't change. But then they have, I can't remember the word for it, someone's going to have to double check me on this, but they have certain principles where they're supposed to be a principle and they should stand the test, like a law, law. So certain laws, scientific laws, but then there's certain laws where you can think, they use it in a playful exercise where let's break this law, and if that law didn't exist, how would we think about the problem now? So if gravity wasn't a thing, what could I achieve? I could fly, obviously. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So then if you break certain laws, then you can sort of think about it.
Then it's a matter of, how do I negate gravity? And then if you think about those things, instantly you've already just opened my own mind up to it. It's thinking, okay, it's impossible for a human to just fly on his own. Okay, what if you somehow, who knows where technology could go, create some gravity negating device that creates a field of gravity above you that just doesn't exist. So you can control how much of it goes. Like, there are so many.
Yeah. So even if that's a playful exercise, but it's worthwhile thinking about. Do you know what I mean?
You go, okay, well then things may be possible.
Yeah, and who knows what you come up with.
Imagine if you could implant some sort of chip into the crown of your head, where if you activate it, gravity in that particular area is suddenly negated, so you can just start moving forwards.
Yeah. There's different ways. Yeah, that makes you think about that movie. I watched a movie called Upgrade, and it's filmed in 2018. It's an Australian movie, but it's basically that. It's sort of like what Elon Musk's Neuralink company is thinking about doing. So Elon Musk's Neuralink company is basically like, it's sort of primitive at the moment, but it's a mesh net that is placed on top of your brain. So you have to have surgery, open your head up, and they put a net on your brain, and that's supposed to solve the bandwidth problem of instant access to internet. So instead of having a phone, you'll have internet in your head because it's a layer. The internet's on your brain, so think about it like that. So would it enhance me as a person? Well, yes, but only if I use it. So whenever we're in a conversation like normal, if I say to you, man, I don't know what the word sophisticated means, and then we're like, oh yeah, God, I don't know either, and we keep moving on. But if you are the one that likes to Google things straight away, and you're like, oh yeah, I don't know what it means, I'll Google it. Okay, so then that was your decision to do that. If I put this mesh net on your head, it wouldn't enhance anything, but it would give you instant access if you chose it. So if you're not the sort of person that likes to quickly search something up and figure it out for yourself there and then it's not going to help you really. It will give you access to other things for sure. But if I am that sort of person that actively seeks things, I can have access to that instantly.
Well, how does it actually work?
So how does the interface work? Not sure yet. I haven't looked in Neuralink enough. But in this movie Upgrade, the heads-up display is in your eyes. So they also have bionic eyes. Yeah. So instead of having a phone to interact with and the screen's in my hand, the screen is everywhere. So because my eyes are bionic, I look at you, I can search your Instagram account, or I can look at you and see all your details, search your criminal history record by looking at you. All sorts of things. Yeah. And now this isn't a dystopian world, but who's to say
we're going to get there?
I think it absolutely will.
Yeah, me too.
And then it brings up the debate that we were talking about earlier, is if you would go into either A, you become more ape and human-like by biohacking, getting better with your own DNA and doing everything that would benefit you in a way that you can stay as natural and physical as you possibly can. So you're eating a perfect diet, perfect supplements, sleep, exercise, anything you can do that's going to bio. Everything about you is biological still. Yeah. You can be the best version of that.
And that involves people also maybe coming in and doing something with your genes and your body. Yeah.
But it's all still natural. Yeah. You're not enhanced in any sort of machine.
Yeah, there's no outside components. integrated with you.
Exactly. It's all natural. Or would you go the opposite end and be cybernetically enhanced? So you've got maybe robotic limbs or robotic eyes, or you've got some sort of like chip in your brain that's jacked your system, and you've got perfect reaction time through this way. And it's sort of like, which one would you rather? Which one gives the most benefits?
Both would be fun. I would choose to enhance myself as much as possible biologically, just because that's what personally I feel more like I gravitate towards that much more. But I can see the allure of, like, you know, augmenting yourself electronically or with whatever, cybernetically. Dude, it could be ridiculous, those kind of things. And if you think about what has more possibilities, for sure, I think cybernetically. But if you think just like based on superheroes and whatnot, you see some that are like the guy from X-Men that is the blue guy, like the blue ape-like monster or whatever. Of course, I wouldn't want to be blue and whatnot, but if you could have that kind of power and whatnot, and then by injecting some sort of thing that would multiply your synthesis of some molecule that made you blah, 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 okay, that could be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But when you get technology involved, it's like it's a dark pathway that you don't know much about,
and you lose that human element, which is a big debate. I think that's the one that most people negate from, because even Elon Musk said the same thing, that he's pro-human, and once you start doing that, then it's like, how far do I have to go before I'm not even human anymore? We're already cyborgs. We've already found that one out because we rely on our phone so much. Yeah, it's still an extension of yourself. Yeah. It's not implanted in any way, but I can't live without it.
Yeah,
I'm a cyborg already in a very primitive form. But then I'm still human. I'm very much human. I still have human emotions. I'm slowly losing.
Just that once this can be integrated and you no longer have to carry it as an additional thing, that's when we open up. Well, that's when it's more obvious that we are actually already a cyborg.
Yeah, for sure. But at the moment, but it's like, I still want to be human, you know, I don't want to fully be a machine. And that's a big argument as well. And I guess that's why most people will probably slowly start to deter from, especially when the new big thing comes out. So when it's not a phone anymore, let's say that the next big thing that comes out is glasses. Everyone gets these glasses.
Yeah.
And it's like an augmented reality permanently. So instead of having the screen, I've got it in my face, but I don't have a bionic eye yet. Nothing's been intrusive.
That's like a next logical progression.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's nothing too far-fetched. You just got the glasses.
But
everyone chooses to keep them on because it's better that way. Yeah. I'm still human. It's all good.
You don't need to use your hands. Your hands are still free. Or a contact lens or something.
Yeah. Because then it's not like I have to put them on or whatever. Yeah, for sure. But as soon as it gets to the point where it starts being implanted, I think there'll be some sort of rejection at first. They'll be like, oh, I don't want to do that. Are they gonna hack me?
People think of some obvious repercussions.
I can't go back. Yeah. But then I think slowly
it'll become the norm.
Let's say, all right, because of this never happened. We've never been so involved into screens as we are right now. So I think naturally we've been so exposed to the UV lights. Yeah.
There's something sad about it almost.
For sure.
Think about future generations, kids. You're gonna be doing them a disservice also if you try and really hold them all back from technology.
Yes. Yeah.
So
it's unfortunate, but it is the way it's going. So let's say, because this generation's been so exposed to these UV lights and it's damaging our eyes like never before, I think inevitably, as if you think about how evolution works, we evolve. Yeah. So as we start evolving as a species, maybe 1 or 2 generations, we're gonna have weaker eyes. And I think because we have weaker eyes from having so much exposure to UV light from all the screens, I think our eyes will get so weak that we're gonna need to enhance them. And I think that would be the reason that we turn into, like, you know, like Black Mirror, how everyone's got those little bionic eyes. Everyone will be like, oh, our eyes are shit.
Now I'm just picturing some lady in a white suit that's standing up. She's got like it's like that little, what would you call that cut again? Is that a bowl cut?
Bob cut.
Yeah, a little bowl cut standing up there delivering some sort of presentation on why we're going to need these, saying like, okay, this is like, imagine not even 2030, imagine 3030, someone standing up there being like, okay, in 2000s, technology started to become more of a thing. And over 2,000 years, eyes deteriorated. And here we have bionic eye. Blah, blah, blah. Everyone starts clapping. Fuck, what a world.
Yeah. I think that's a very, I don't know, it's a scary thought. Who knows? Who knows what you want?
It's already becoming accepted. People are going, yeah, this can happen. Whereas, let's say 10 years ago, people would be like, impossible.
Yeah.
Now, as more people are like, okay, it's very far off, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the other debate as well. I listen to a lot of Sam Harris, Elon Musk, and the likes of those, and they always say that, yeah, for sure, we're more advanced than we've ever been, but we're still pretty far off anything that is going to revolutionarily change anything just yet. Especially with AI. I think AI is a big one, but we're still pretty far off, so I wouldn't be too stressed. But it is worth thinking about, because it's always like,
it's a whole nother
if you
world.
don't think about it and set some debates and laws and regulations now, then let's say it explodes tomorrow. It's like, fuck, what do we do?
You know why there will always be some sort of chaos, or there'll always be the yin and the yang in the same, is because all those things will upgrade and change, but human nature itself won't ever really change. Yeah. I don't see how. That will always be something that will affect whatever we have in front of us, whether it's technology now or back then. Even without technology, look ages back, there were still wars, there were still things happening,
still fighting over women.
Yeah, same shit happens.
Money, power, yeah, that sort of stuff's been.
And then there'll be someone with some shitty idea to do something sneaky. Someone fuck everything up.
Yeah,
it's a matter of regulating. That's why you see that the only way anything would get to a complete state of control would be through heavy regulation, heavy surveillance, heavy monitoring of people's movements and actions. In all those dystopian films that you see, cameras absolutely everywhere, in the TV everywhere, and that's a scary thought, to think that, okay, eventually there'll come a time where someone's going to say, okay, everything's horrible, there needs to be some sort of control here. Where do you think we'll end up? Do you think that there'll be a time where everything is united under one overarching, I don't know.
So we're one planet, not
one
country, and divided like that. Someone else brought up this argument, and they said the best way that would happen is if you introduce an outside threat that was bigger than all of us. Someone said, like, if we were attacked by another species, like alien or whatever, then yeah, you'd have to set aside your differences and do it. But then at the same time, isn't that sort of what's happening with the whole corona thing? Not so much yet, but I mean, a big threat that affects all of us.
Unites.
It doesn't matter your race, your religion, your country, you're all affected by it. So you sort of have to, whether you like it or not, band together and figure out a way how you're going to beat it. And it's sort of when these bad and threatening things happen is when the good comes out of us and we start to unite. So it's almost like we need chaos in our lives before we can merge.
So where are you at with this corona thing? Yeah.
I think it's funny. I think a lot of it's pretty funny. I think it's funny because I thought about this. I want to try and state this as logically as I can without getting sucked into anything. So I just think it's funny because there's so many different things out there that can kill you. This doesn't seem very deadly. I think if we average across all ages and immune systems, I think it's about a 0.5% for an average that you'll die from it. So let's say the whole world got affected by it. So what's that? Almost 8 billion. So 0.5% of 8 billion. How much is that? 1% of it would be 800,000. So it's about
massive shit.
Maybe a
few hundred thousand.
It's either 500,000 or it's 5 million, depending on how my math just went then. And I'm like, is that a lot? Not really, to be honest. Yeah. Even if the whole world got it, that's not a lot of people that would die. There's a lot of other things out there that will kill you a lot quicker. Malaria is still the biggest killer. Mosquitoes will kill the fuck out of you. So it's like, what's the real danger from it? I don't see any real danger, but I'm not into conspiracy theories, but it makes you think. There's the one, do you know anyone that has coronavirus? I've seen a few videos in China where they're yelling out of the apartment saying that's fake. But I think the most logical one would be that for sure, yeah, maybe it's a real thing. All right. So coronavirus is real. It can kill you and it's very contagious. All right. But I think the biggest thing would be that it's sort of like a reset for the economy. So you reset the economy. Countries start forgiving each other's debts. They start waving the debts over. Maybe, the big trade war with China stopped. They opened up trade again with America. Well, that's a big yes. So I just think I think most of it would probably be more about the economy than it is about us as a human. It forces a big economy reset. But in saying that, do I really care about all that? No. I don't really care about any of that sort of stuff. I'm sure we're all going to be fine. That's all good. But I think that the biggest thing is that instead of making it a big terror and a big, like a bad negative thing that's happening, I feel like it's the best thing ever. I feel like, one, we get to test ourselves as humanity and as a species and as a world. This generation gets to live through something that's potentially dangerous. And it's like, yeah, finally something's hard for us for once. We can experience some negativity and come out of it as better people, hopefully. But I think that the best part of all is that you get this isolation period for however long it takes, doesn't really matter. But you get this isolation period where it's up to you. What do you want to do? You know, like you don't have to worry about work. Work's all good. And everyone's even with that. So it's not like you think that you're missing out. I think that's what negates a lot of people from really experiencing a true holiday, for example, because you think you're missing out or you're lacking, you're coming behind, someone else is getting ahead. It's like no one's getting ahead. We're all even now, if you choose to be. So it's like, it's a perfect time to spend time with your family, go out on holidays, whatever. I guess, yeah, for sure you're isolated. But at the same time, it should be the best part of your life. You can choose to do whatever you want. If you were thinking about writing a book or learning a skill or whatever it is, now's your chance. It's like a golden area that's being given to you. Here's 2 months. Do whatever you want with it.
Yeah. This is where I'm at with it. Like, I think for sure it's a real thing, and I'm not underestimating it or undermining it, but I am not going to let it affect me and throw me down and lock myself in and like, no, this is where I'm at with it. It's a real thing. There's a threat. Yes. Is it as crazy as the media is hyping it up to be? I don't think so, but I'm also none of us is an expert, so none of us know. But what I've been telling people is this: I'm not going to be foolish, but I'm also not going to be fearful. And that's a balance that can be achieved. It doesn't mean I have to be on one end or the other. Like I have to be completely fearful or I have to be completely foolish and be like, no, I'm going to live my life, do whatever the fuck I want. No, I'm not going to be foolish. I'm not going to be fearful. So because we all have parents and whatnot, I'm like, okay, if this is a thing that the percentages look pretty low, there's no harm in putting on a tiny bit of sanitizer before I enter the house and being a bit more careful. But like what you said about it being a golden time, my goal is, okay, if with the time I have, if everything gets put into lockdown, I will return from this much better than I entered. So I'm going to sit back at home. I'm going to reset and say, okay, what things do I want to do in my time right here? Of course, as our ambitions are similar in some respects, physically, I'm going to train heaps, if not more. Okay, I'm still going to do the same thing. Twice a day training, I'm going to schedule it. Training at this time, training at that time. Try and develop some routines. It's a good time to maybe try and develop some routines. Okay, how do I start my day in such a way that I have the most energy and am as most effective and as happy as I am throughout the whole day? Okay, develop that process on your own. What things do you need to be in place? Do that. I'll focus on diet way more. Let me eat some real food here over this 2-month period. Come out of it way healthier than I would be. Focus on training the mind. So just meditation, see where I can go with that. That's an area I haven't put as much attention as I would like to, even though I know it's really valuable. So let me try and train that part of myself, see where I can go with that mentally. Some other goals financially, I'm still going to find ways to have some sort of an income. Yes, I will try to take advantage of whatever process the government implements to try and assist its citizens. And at the same time, I'll do my own thing to try and see what I can do. I know that we both know money can be made online, and there are a multitude of ways that people can make money. Businesses are going to have to be agile. There are options. What else will I do? Read. I'm going to read a bunch. So many books I haven't had time to read because I've got to be bouncing all over the place. Well, guess what? Now's the time. You're going to be able to just sit down and get a bunch of things read. Learn as much as you can.
Listen to podcasts.
It's
a perfect time.
Watch documentaries. Research.
Yeah.
Even like I was telling you, I'm going to start researching into certain fields. Like I just want to research apes and just learn a bit more. Yeah. Just something. Get some information up. What advice would I give to anyone in this situation? I would say try and be the same. Try and find a middle ground like you and I have. Being in between and not being foolish and not saying this is 100,000% not an issue, no. But also not living your life completely carrying up and following up on every single emotive word that the media throws out there. Try and put yourself on the flip side and say, how can I come out of this as best as possible? It's not going to be easy for some people at all, regardless of if it's a thing or if it isn't. There's obvious impacts that people have that maybe can't work right now. But see how you're gonna you operate much better from a positive mindset, as cliche as it sounds, than you would from a negative and fearful mindset. If you're negative and fearful, it's like, fuck, what's happening? Okay, let me just go get some government handouts and see if I can survive off that. Or you can say, okay, this is where I'm at right now. How do I adapt? What can I do to come out of this much better than I went in? What can I do? Because there is something. I refuse to believe or listen to anyone saying that there's absolutely nothing that can be done. Effort is the key here, and your mindset. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's a fun time. I like it.
It's also interesting to see how this thing plays out. And like I said, it's an interesting time frame to live through. It's an experience.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's not like the most, sort of like the hardest thing most people have experienced. I was thinking about, because it was sort of getting bad when me and Romy were in the van going up and down the coast, and we didn't really pay attention to anything. No sort of media, hardly on our phones.
Same. Yeah.
Just doing whatever. Just doing absolute whatever. We spent most of it camping anyway. And then I didn't even know how bad that everyone was fighting in the shops and raiding, whatever. And then when we got back after 2 weeks, I was like, fuck, I should have just stayed. I should have just stayed out there and camped and did whatever, waited for it to blow over. And then I was sort of thinking, at the same time, I was sort of getting excited, because if you ever think about like what would it be like if the world went into an absolute apocalypse for whatever reason, how would you react and how would it turn out? I was thinking, oh shit, are we close to an apocalypse? And I was getting a little bit excited, because I was like, man, that'd be so fun to live through as an adventure. For sure, I don't want my family to get hurt or whatever, but it would still be a lot of fun.
Yeah, 100%.
I was thinking about it, I'm like, shit, this would be sick. It's probably not going to happen.
Well, let's go through that little rabbit hole. So let's say you're in your van, you return to Melbourne, house is empty and ransacked, and you realise shit's gotten real bad. It's an apocalypse.
What do I do from there?
And you've just returned, you haven't heard the news, you don't know what, it could be corona, it could be something else, but you just see that everything's fucked. Cars are like trashed, blah, blah, blah. You go, what the fuck have I come back to? Like, what would you do?
Alright, from there, so I get back to the house and no one's there. Far out. Well, if no one's there, it's only me and Dad at the moment anyway, so I'm like, alright. I know my family's somewhere else in another state, they're probably alright. Dad's pretty good by himself, so he should be all good. So I wouldn't even probably stress about Dad, to be honest. And then I would probably go through the house, see if there's anything I can salvage. My van has a built-in bed and storage. It's got a fan, it's got a fridge, it's got power. So I've got my own little mobile home already. So I'd go through the house, see if I can get any supplies. Maybe try and call Dad if he answers or not. Call my friends, see if they're all good or not. If no one's answering, straight away I would get out of the city. Straight away, get back out of the city. I would either head up towards like Bendigo way. I've got family up there, and it's sort of out of the way a bit. Maybe go up there and see if my family up there is all right. If they are there or not, I would just straight out into the wild and camp.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go anywhere near cities unless I had to restock.
Yeah.
I would stay out wild, and I would stay in small groups. I don't like the idea of big groups. Yeah. I don't like the idea of isolation.
You gotta stay nimble.
Yeah. Isolation, I think you'll go crazy. But I think you need a small group.
So you'd go down the route of mobile living.
Mobile living,
nomad
out off the grid. Unless I need supplies, I would come in and then go back out.
Make a little venture in.
Yeah, but I would only stay in a place for a month.
Let's say it's a zombie apocalypse.
Oh shit, I gotta kill things? Alright. I always thought about what weapon I would use.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to... I would need a sword. I would always need a sword, because you can never run out of bullets and that. And I don't know how to get a gun. It's not like America that's that easy and get bullets and that. I think I'd probably be better off with swords and stuff. What sort of zombies are they? Are they fast ones, or is it Walking Dead style?
Walking Dead style.
Oh, okay. That's all right. I'm going to have to work on my cardio. I got to work on that cardio, make sure I can always run.
Well, this is the thing. Let's say that situation happens to me. I've just come back. Let's say I've just come back from Grampians, which is an option, Grampians, to stay up there. But I'm like, okay, I've come back. First thing I do, I'd do the same. Call family and friends. But if they're not there, it's a situation where it's like, I would try to find them, of course. But the first thing I'd do is call. Hopefully they answer. Let's say they don't. Then I'd try to figure out where they're at. Only because I feel like I'd be able to offer some form of assistance. I feel like they like.
Well, out of everyone in your family, you're the most that probably could survive in terms of fighting. You'd be able to fight. You have your best chance of survival.
There are so many advantages to myself being with the family. So I'm like, I'll definitely make efforts to try and get together with whatever loved ones I have. Okay, and if I can't, I'll go to where they last were. Okay, Glenroy, go from there. And if I can't go from there, well then what else can I do? I'm not going to spend time fucking around. I'm going to straight away go to some. I'd go to a car dealership and steal some fucking sick.
You don't even know how to work. What do you mean?
Oh, bro, we'll figure. No, the car dealership. They have keys. They have the keys at the dealership.
Oh,
yeah. And I'd take like a truck.
Yeah,
like a fucking solid truck. Yeah, solid truck. And I'd get some jerry cans, pump them up with fuel from somewhere.
Yeah.
And then go to some places and just start raiding some places to get what I need. And then from there, okay, let's say I'm on my own. It's like, all right, well, do you go about going and building a strategic stronghold? And if you do that, okay, let's say I get with my family, I find them and I go, okay, there's 6 of us here. Let's say Felicia's there as well. I get Felicia. Let's say it's me, you, and our families, like somehow have come together. It's a little community, bit bigger. It's like, do you get a stronghold or do you stay mobile? Because like you said, it'd be hard to stay mobile with 10 people. But it can be done. Let's say 2 big trucks riding in tandem, and you have communication between you with walkie-talkies. And it's not like you're traveling great distances every time. You can just head up to the Grampians and set up camp there. And then from there, start figuring out, okay, what are we going to do here? Are we going to have to make supply runs every now and then and just live here?
Mm-hmm. But what would your overarching goal be? Would it be to just survive and live the best life that you can, or would you try and find the cure? Because
I don't have the resources to try and find the cure. But if something came across me, an opportunity, and there's some sort of like a classic movie, you got a scientist in your crew and he's some developer. Okay, go sort it out. I'll try and help him. But aside from that, I just make do with what I can. You can still set massive goals and achieve them in that kind of scenario. I think, let's say a few years have passed and things have kind of stabilized in terms of lifestyle. This is just the world we live in from now on. This is what's happening. Then I'd try and figure out how to bring some order to things on a wider scale. That's a goal that even now would be coming to my head. And
throughout your own community? Like let's
throughout the own community,
but a few hundred now, and then would you try and be like the mayor of the community or something?
Not the mayor, but I would try to create as best a community as possible, and one that grows. So to bring some sort of order, that would eventually have to be there. Otherwise, it's like when you're gone, your kids are just going to be nomads themselves. And I would like to see that there's some sort of system in place for things to progress, where eventually things will stabilize out. Because I don't think anything will last forever. No bad times either. So let's say eventually someone somewhere will have figured something out to do with these zombies. And then when that time comes, there'll be a little community here. Would you stockpile cash for that time when it comes?
Oh, that's a hard
Or would
one.
you forget about cash, be like, fuck it?
Nah, I would not worry about it. I think the currency would change anyway. I think you'd barter for things.
Yeah. Do you think that, let's say the government comes back, they'd say, all right, all currency from pre-zombie time is no longer valid? So anyone that would stockpile it.
For sure. They would bring out new notes. They'd be like, the old notes don't work.
Well, what about the people that had financial, like currency, like in their savings, in their bank account?
No. It would be it would be the same as like this.
Yeah.
Everything would be waived. You'd waive everything. All right, that was a little fun period, but now everything's waived. We're all even again. We're reset. Except for whoever decides to do the reset. They would make some sort of benefit.
But also, with that said, in terms of setting up a community, there's something really fun and attractive about just living the lifestyle of going place to place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that always reminds me of that Rick and Morty episode. How they reset I don't know what happened. For whatever reason, they go to a little town and they kill the monarchy there, and they reset the town. And then it shows you those first few questions of what you'd ask. And it's like, oh, there's no currency. And then they're like, I will cook the bread, or I will look after the kids for extra this and that. And then it starts. And then it shows you how the cycle of violence starts and how the monarchy starts again. And it's always interesting because it's like, what would you do if you had your own community? because you would end up facing the same sort of problems.
Of course, that's what I'm saying. But to me, that's the challenge that's the big goal that would make me have to continuously work outside of just surviving. And be like, okay, how do I curate this thing so that things are okay? And how do you'd have to be really ruthless and at the same time very just, because you'd have to cut any sort of bullshit that can spread into something negative needs to be cut at the source. There's someone in the community that's doing something that is strictly against the rules, you'd have to kill him.
All right, let's say it's your son though, because then this is where it comes up. Because then
you have to do the right thing.
My son, but he doesn't get to die. He doesn't die this time. And then it's like, whoa, your son didn't die. Mine did.
He would have to die.
He wouldn't do it.
Oh, it's easy for me to say now because, of course, if I have a son, there could be a different bond. But I'm thinking that would be one of the toughest decisions of a king. If it's your son and let's say the rule that was in place was something so solid for a purpose. Let's say something like, no, imagine he'd broken into a neighboring person's house, killed the guy and raped the woman. You have to die. That shit can't be tolerated.
Yeah, but then it's like, what were his motives? Why did he do that? And then you're like, well, he actually tormented him when he was young and it's justified, and these questions start to cloud your judgment and you can't do it.
Under Kikembo law.
That's an interesting thing, because then it always makes you think, if you think about it like you're the person in power, and then, because a lot of people are quick to judge for whatever, but if you were the person in charge and you were making the rules, what would you decide?
Have you read Lord of the Flies?
No.
So it's a great book, a book I read when I was much, much younger. It was like, I think I don't remember much of it. The kids are on a school bus and, sorry, I think they're on a plane or some form of transport, and it crashes on an island somewhere. And among these kids, they need to set up some sort of community survival. It's really, really well written. And even things such as, okay, there's some people that naturally would gravitate towards some leadership roles and say, okay, try and solve things out. And it's a lucky island. They've got some clean water source and whatnot. But outside of that, how do you control a bunch of teenagers? I'm talking 15 to 18. People, one thing that they developed early on was this conch shell, because there was a situation where everyone was talking and then people talking to each other, then yelling, and then one kid had to stop and say, hey, we need some order here. If you're holding this conch shell, you're allowed to talk. Everyone else has to be quiet until your turn, and it's going to get passed around. That was one thing that came around. And of course, everything else came around. Eventually, there were some kids that were more savage-like, that broke off and started their own thing, and that became a real dangerous thing. And blah, blah, and it was a great thing to read, bro. It was a fucking interesting as book.
It's so interesting. I love thinking about that, the whole human nature thing, and where one people excel and where one don't.
Look, I would say, to wrap up the coronavirus talk, I would just say that my advice would be to, if things are hard for anyone, do your best to stay positive and try your best to put yourself in a mindset that will assist you moving forward. A mindset that will allow you to operate better. And that mindset is one that is much more positive. If you're negative and living in fear and scared and being scared, you're not going to accomplish much. You're just going to go with the motions. If you stay positive and you start trying to develop solid outcomes for yourself, how do I do well in this situation? Then you're in a much better place. Simple as.
Yeah. It's sort of like less is more.
Yeah.
Don't think about it too much. Don't even talk about it too much. Just do your thing for the next few months. That's all you have to do. I wouldn't even be worried about it. Yeah, there's not much to it really.
What have you
do you know what I was thinking about when you were talking about what were you just talking about? Something about the train. Oh yeah, for this moment. So let's say that we use this however long it takes. Let's say it takes 2 months. We're in isolation for 2 months. And I've been really into Dragon Ball Z lately, and then going into the hyperbolic time chamber to fight Cell. If anyone watches, you know what I'm talking about. The hyperbolic time chamber is basically you go in there for a day, but a year has passed. It's sort of like this. If we have this 2 month period, but because it's so focused, I'm really gaining, like, you know that quote you put in six months. 6 months of solid work will put you 6 years ahead, for example. It's sort of the same thing. So let's say I put 2 months of focused work on building an online business, and I've always thought about it and I keep thinking about it. And I'm like, all right, 2 months, that's all I'm doing is just going to build this perfect store, laid out, learn how to market, whatever. After this 2 months, I'm going to have a fully functioning business. And then when it's time to roll out and everyone's like, oh yeah, we need this and that, and we're all good to spend again, I know how to do it, and I'm off and I'm ready. So I always think like maybe this 2 month period, if it is 2 months,
could be the best thing that's ever happened to you.
Yeah, I've just accelerated my own learning if I focus it enough.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is exciting. So that's like, pick what you want. What do you want to do?
That's a really great way to put it, because it's like, okay, you enter this and you're going to sit back and be like, things are shit. Okay, let me just wait till things are over and in the meantime have a really hard time. Or say, this is a time for me to try and put myself ahead. How? Use my time well. Now this whole 2 month period is no longer a suffer time. It's okay, I have 2 months. I'm going to be focused here, organized and dedicated with my time and try and achieve some things.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting. If
really
you choose
is,
it to be. If you choose to be exciting, it's exciting. And that's how I like to think about it.
Let's see, what have you been up to in general anyway, since we haven't caught up in a little while?
It's been about a month, maybe a bit longer. The last time we seen we was chilling on Hottest 100 on Australia Day.
Yeah.
Australia, or day after, because they changed it, whatever.
About a month, a bit more probably. Yeah,
a bit more than a month.
A few more
Since
weeks,
then,
6-7 weeks.
Went to Thailand for 2 weeks. Did a little training camp for my boy Jesse. Came back on Rebellion, won his fight, split decision. So shout out to Jesse.
On your mate.
But Thailand was good. Thailand was like the first time I got to train since surgery.
Yeah.
The first time I wasn't even sure if I could or not. I'm like, fuck it, I got nothing else to do. I'll go to Thailand. I went there, and then it was really cool. It's this cool experience. Thailand's way better than I thought it would be. It's so much healthier. It was a perfect lifestyle. You wake up, we would fast. So we'd have a little coffee and a chat. Go straight to training, train 2 hours, come back. The first few days we're having naps because we were like just so fresh, it's hot, you train hard, whatever. And then you would chill out for a bit, read a book, whatever, and then go train at night. And then you repeat the process and you would eat good food always. And it was sick. It was sick to like just test my body, see if it was going to react good or not. And the Thais don't really give a fuck. So they sort of push you through it. They're very respectful and they're good about it. They know that they can see I obviously have a scar. They couldn't understand what I was saying by the injury. Yeah. They're like, I don't. But they could see that I had a scar. So they're like, all right, we'll take it sort of easy. Yeah. You're still going to push through the 2 hours whether you like it or not. But they wouldn't make you do certain things. They seen the scar and they took it sort of easy. But it was good to like test my body every day, see how it would go. And I felt good, surprisingly, because I went there 6 weeks post-surgery. Yeah. And I wasn't sure how I'd react. Ended up doing pretty good. You did
bounce back pretty quick.
Yeah, pretty good. And I got to a decent stage and I'm still moving around pretty good still. But the nerve damage that it's created from what like they had to do to my leg is still, and it's going to last probably another 2 years. It's pretty crazy because I feel like I can't feel my leg. I can feel that it's there. I can touch it and I can feel some of it. But the whole left side of my calf, from tibia to the back of calf, all that left side is numb. You can pull my hairs if you want. I won't feel it. Yeah. I put a lighter to my leg to test it. I can't feel the lighter. Yeah. I couldn't even feel the tattoo. I got a calf tattoo. I didn't even feel the tattoo. And I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Yeah. So because of that, I'm like, if damage happens, I don't know that it's happening. So am I doing harm to it or not? And even with these new Vivo barefoot shoes that I've got, as I'm running, I feel perfect technique. I'm trying to focus on perfect technique. And like I was saying before, how I can sort of feel little tears in my calf because it stretches your calf every time you run. And my calf hasn't moved like that in so long that I feel it tearing. And I think it's going to help me, but I have to go through a little bit of shit before it, you know what I mean?
But like you said, breaking the mold.
Yeah, breaking the mold, exactly. Yeah. And it's sort of like, I don't know how well it's going. I'm not too sure. It's going to take a long time and it's never going to be really the same. So I have to make some adjustments, like we were talking. Yeah. I'm adjusting to Southpaw I feel better that way anyway. So I just got to, it's sort of like when these things happen, it's like, well, is it good or bad? Well, it's how I choose it to be. And if I choose to make some changes, it's all good. And like I remember in year 12, when I first applied, I was really heavily into joining the commandos. Yeah. And I was adamant about it. I was going to do it. And then whatever, I made some changes. But there was a point where in the medical test, they test your eyesight and my right eye is weaker than my left. But if I was to shoot, I would use my right hand and my right eye. Yeah. But I couldn't see very well. I did target practice. I did work experience for the Defence Force in Magar Barracks. And we were doing target practice there and I couldn't see shit past 400 yards. Yeah. And I'm like, fuck. So then I'm like, all right, well, I'm still joining. So I started walking around the house every day after school
with left eye,
and I put an eye patch on. I put a pirate eye patch on my right eye. No, so my left eye to force me to use my right eye more. So I'm like, well, I need to strengthen my eye.
Yeah.
And then I tried doing that for a while, and it wasn't really working. And I'm like, all right, well, the only other option is to go southpaw. And I started writing all my homework with my left hand. So I was still, the goal didn't change. I'm like, I'm going to do it. And I started using my left hand. That's it. Yeah. I still want to fight. That's not out of me. I'll just change the way I fight.
Exactly.
With everything, you know?
That's it. If fighting is a part of life, it's just simple as that. For me, I've been, since when you left after that, as you know, I was still building that PT base. So definitely built that up a little bit more. Was really happy. Still am really happy with how it's going. Clients have gotten increased, like I was talking about earlier. And there's so many things you learn in any new field or venture. That's happening. I traveled a little bit, just not interstate, just in amongst Victoria. Went a little bit in Grampians, went to Sorrento, went to Torquay.
Did you surf?
No, I didn't. I really wanted to. I want to learn. I want to go out there. But each time I went out there, it was for a different purpose. First time I went with Felicia, we just relaxed, camped a little bit. Second time I went, I went with Felicia again to Grampians. Then I went on my own to Sorrento, which was so good, man. That trip actually was good. Was so good. So what I did was, I just took the car up to, it's a place called. Damn, I remember the name. But in Sorrento. Something Mill. Okay, that's one word from the name.
Anyway, you took the car there. Yeah. What, just to camp or? Just
for camping. So I brought the car, and you had to park about 200 meters away from the campsite. Okay, and this is a shared campsite. This one, it's a free shared campsite. So as soon as I went there, it was like walking into a little like a native Indian gathering, just a bunch of tents spread out over a certain amount of space. And some tents were teepees. Some people literally had teepees set up. Some had tents that were set up for longer term. So there was a guy I ran into there that had a tent set up. He was totally been there for a while. And that's where he lives. He couldn't pay rent, so he just went and set his tent up there for a few weeks, and then he's going to go back in and he's like, I got another month or 2 months to go. So now thinking to myself just now, he's kind of avoided this whole coronavirus. Who knows if he even has it, because he has no phone or anything up there.
Yeah, right.
Weird ass guy. He was actually a surf teacher.
Oh yeah.
But that was his job, yeah. But anyway, I rock up there and I just see that setting in front of me. I'm like, okay, it's gonna be good. I just hope everyone's quiet, which was the case. No one was. It wasn't like a community. The only person I ran into was that bloke. Yeah, and said hi. That was because yeah.
So everyone was just minding their own business.
Everyone was just minding their own business. Yeah. A group of girls came and set up a tent right next to near mine, and it was funny as listening to their conversation. They were the only ones on one night. I was there for 2 nights that were really loud, which I wasn't mad at, but I could tell other people would have been, because it was a really quiet little space. But I was listening in on their conversations, and it was just hilarious, bro. It was straight out of it was my first time listening in to a female army conversation. And it was just funny. I was lying in my tent on my own, just pissing myself, laughing into my pillow. It was one of the funniest moments ever.
How old do you reckon they were? Young?
Oh no, they were around mid-30s. But that's why it was interesting to see that not much had really changed.
Oh yeah.
Because that's the stuff to talk about. Yeah, gossip. It was funny. That's nothing against it. Guys get together and talk a bunch of shit as well. But they were making fun of her ex-partner's dick size, just making jokes, and then they're talking, and there was one situation which was so funny to me. One girl was talking about her really bad experience with something on a night out, and then how rude someone is, and then they started talking, and they're and she goes to her friends, oh my god, and it's just we're all here together, and we're sitting here and we're friends. Yeah, we are friends, that's obvious. She's like, and we're sitting here having a good time, and we don't have to sit here and gossip and talk shit about anyone else. And as a community, the other 5 girls were all just oh my god, yes, so true. And throughout the night, you just hear one voice talk, and then a chorus of responses. So someone would say oh, and then you hear like, oh my God, yes. And then like another whole thing. It was fucking hilarious. So that's why me and the bloke were laughing about the next morning, because when they left up and packed, it was funny. I opened up my tent, and I had my stuff there. He opened up his, and we both looked at each other for a sec, and we both started laughing. He goes, did you hear that? Did you hear this shit last night? I go, bro, fucking cracked me up. But yeah, that aside, the camping itself was exactly what I needed. Like, I went away, peace and quiet. Like I said, that interaction was like just a one-off. Complete peace and quiet. I'd open the tent, I'd just look, surrounded by forests, nature, grassland. It was just fantastic, dude. It was absolutely incredible. And then I went up on my own, found this beautiful waterfall with a pristine pool at the bottom of it that you could swim around in.
In Sorrento?
Yeah, in Sorrento, yeah. Beautiful waterfall. It's called Phantom Falls. Yeah. Allenvale Mills. That triggered my memory now. So that's a campground. Allenvale Mills campground. Allenvale Mills. There used to be a mill during some war period where they would make a bunch of things, I don't know, that they would use.
What was your mill?
I don't know.
Like wheat and shit?
Nah, it's something to do with wood. Because on the campsite it said that they used to produce a bunch. It was like a log mill.
Oh, yeah.
So,
okay.
yeah, so that was happening. But anyway, it was a beautiful place. I went on a few walks, and it just reiterated to me how important it is to spend time on your own.
Yeah.
And to just relax. And to do it in some form of nature. Okay, like, everyone has their own way of relaxing and unwinding, but I think everyone will benefit from being out in nature on your own. Just to sit there in your campsite on your own, chilling, relaxing. It's a benefit that you can only like once you do it, you go, this is so important for me to do every few months. Like, even just to reflect. I did a lot of writing as well. Not that I'm some creative, but I just opened up and just started writing a bunch of things. A lot of walking. I tried to challenge myself and go walking at night, which I was walking at night and I was like shitting myself, bro. Oh, dude, it was so funny though, because like at the end I'm like, okay, in the morning you're gonna
phone light.
No phone light. So I had no light, and I would just walk. Of course, I had my phone on me, but I didn't turn the light on, and I would just walk. And then every single sound is scary. You don't know where you are. I'm like, I just walked at one point from the campsite to my car, which is 200 meters away. And it was the longest, scariest walk of my life. I was like walking at one point. I was like, fuck, am I going the right way? I'm turning this way, I'm turning that way.
Everything looks different. Yeah.
And you go, well, if there's one crazy person out, this is the time for him to be out. True. And you start thinking, you go, okay, well, but then of course, like when I say scared, I'm saying that because I was, but I wasn't like paralyzed by fear. Like I still completed my walks, and it was a good experience.
I remember when I used to be real scared of the dark, and I'd be like, there's probably some crazy guy out there or whatever. I used to, because I didn't want to be scared of the dark anymore, I used to keep telling myself, no, I'm the crazy guy that everyone's scared of. And then I wouldn't be scared. I'm like, well, if I'm the crazy guy, I'm the big fish. No,
because you told me that ages ago, that I actually was thinking that as I walk. I was like, well, if anyone's going to try to fuck with me right now, they've chosen the wrong guy. I go, I'm going to fuck this cunt up. I go, whoever jumps me right here, better shoot me, because they're going to get fucked up. It's a good way of thinking about it, and it's true.
Yeah,
it puts you from the defensive. It puts you on the ready to go. Yeah, you're like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, and then I also thought, well, realistically, what's probably in the bush? Yeah. Well, there's nothing.
It's a possum.
Yeah, exactly.
A bird.
The worst thing out here could maybe be a dingo, but I don't even know if they're here.
Yeah.
Some sort
I'd
of dog
the shit
or
out of
a
a
pig.
dingo.
Yeah, I reckon I'd belt a pig.
Yeah.
I don't reckon a pig could take me.
Yeah, so you think it was a great experience. I went down there, and then I also went down to main area Sorrento as well. Went into a little op shop, sussed it out, chatted to there's like a bunch of old ladies that have been running it. They loved telling me about how important it was for the community and everything, and I entertained the whole conversation. Great, yeah, it was a good experience. Good 2 days away on my own. I'm gonna do it again soon for sure.
Yeah. You need it, absolutely need it. I was gonna ask you, what's your favorite natural setting view?
It's straight away between ocean and forest.
Oh yeah, okay. What about time? Do you love a good sunrise?
I love sunrise. I love sunrise. For me, sunrise. Sunset's mad, like perfect as well. For me, the morning, the second morning I was there was the perfect morning, because those girls weren't there the night before. It was just dead quiet the whole day, whole night. And cut my day halfway short so that I had from like afternoon till evening just at the campsite. And yeah, it was fucking perfect. Like, let's say when I woke up in the morning, dead quiet. I woke up naturally, no alarm. I went to bed early because there's no lights, and the body just
go to bed so early.
Woke up. It was around like 5:50 a.m. I'm like, fuck, I'm just gonna stay up. I set up the stove, cooked myself a nice breakfast. It was just dead quiet. It was an amazing time. It was so good. I just love sunrise because it's so silent. It's a start. It's a beginning. You know, it's like beginning, start, and then that's perfect time for me. I love that.
Yeah, I was gonna say nothing for me makes me feel more than an open starry night.
There's something that gets me
I get so excited. I'll go out of my way to see it. Like, I purposely drove at night so I can see it, and just the solitude by myself. Let me sit under it. Let me think.
Million Star Hotel.
Let me wonder. What's that?
So I don't know which book I read, but a guy in a book that I read said to this kid, he goes, "Look, mate, which star? I'm gonna take you to a Million Star Hotel." And then he's like, "Oh, which star hotel?" And it's just the sleeping under the stars.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a good way to think. Million Star Hotel. I counted.
Yeah.
I was counting how many stars can I see in I didn't move. Just right there. How many can I count? And I got to like 400 something, and I'm like, fuck, there's so many. But even still, I'm like, man, there's 400 stars.
Stars are incredible. Like an experience I had that I hadn't shared with many was at the start of the year. I was down in, I don't know where I was. I forgot. I think around Torquay, but I was sleeping in my car. I was just in my car, and I was with Felicia, and she'd fallen asleep. It was a trip that I completely backfired that trip. No tent, whatever. So we get there. I'm like, oh well, we're just sleeping in the car. So poor girl was sleeping in the car, and I hop out the car halfway through the night because I was just cramped up in the front in different positions. And I go, I look up and I go, wow. I just see the stars. It hits you again.
Yeah.
You just realize how, not insignificant, but you realize how gigantic of a thing you're in. And it gives you great perspective. So I hop out the car straight away and I lie on top of the bonnet, leaning on the windshield. And I'm just looking up at the stars. And I'm like, this is the first day of a whole new decade. I go, it was one of those moments I'm not going to forget it. And I'm like, this is the first day of a whole new decade. Day 1, 2020. I was looking up, and then bang, one of the stars I was looking at just started moving. And I'm like, is this a sign? I'm like, so first I'm like, is that a shooting star or is that a plane? Because I've never seen a shooting star.
Slowly moving?
Yeah, slowly.
Oh man, I've had that happen. I don't know what it is. Because you're like, it's not a plane.
Yeah, it's definitely not a plane. Because it's a star I was watching for ages. I was looking at all the stars, and this was a star. It wasn't too bright, but it was... The thing is, other planes were flying just at the time that I was figuring out. And I go, that's a plane. That's obviously a plane. Like you can see. And then the star moves, and it got faster and faster and faster, and shot out into nothing. It just blinked out. And I'm like, fuck.
What was that?
I just saw my first shooting star, I think. I think that's a shooting star.
Well, it depends. Most of the time like that, they're usually an asteroid.
Oh, okay.
Because you know how like the Earth...
But why was it so...
Because Earth is circular.
Yeah.
And then let's say let's say the asteroid is on a straight linear path, but it cuts through the small little part of our atmosphere as a sphere, and then as it exits that sphere and goes back out into its own linear pattern that's not in our atmosphere, it looks like it shoots off. But really, it sort of just entered us and then came out.
Yeah. I feel ya. It went. This is the Earth, and it went like this.
Yeah. So it skimmed past us. And it looked like a shoot. Yeah.
It was amazing to see, and I was like, at that moment, I'm like, I use it as like one of those little moments. I'm like, all right, I'm going to say a few things that are going to happen. And I'm like, okay, this. But some of those things were my PTs. Some of the things have already happened. Some were super long term. And I was like, that was a pretty good moment. There's something about looking at a starry sky, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Everyone should do it.
Yeah.
Often.
It gives you so much power. You feel like anything you say or do or everything that you are is just, you feel more relaxed straight away because you realize, I'm small and stuff, and you can think insignificant if you want, but you just feel like, well, my problems don't really matter. It's all good. It's temporary. That's fine. But I feel like it's almost like everything you say from that little moment towards the stars, in a weird way, it feels like it responds back.
Yeah.
If I say something, it says yes to it. Do you know what I mean? Anything I say is yes. You can do that.
Man, it's so incredible. There's so many things that are so possible, and all these little moments you have to take in and appreciate. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, anything's possible. I've been thinking about that a lot. I was thinking about how you and I both had a similar experience. We were talking about earlier how we're both in a pretty wealthy apartment, and we were both thinking like, is this everything that I so desired or I think I desired? Because I mean, when I'm talking multi-million, I'm talking around the $4 million mark, and this place is beautiful. It's everything that you'd probably want, right on the beach, whatever. But at the same time, I was thinking, is this what's going to bring me happiness, being in a place like this? Because I've had those little moments every now and then. Sure, I don't own it, but I'm experiencing it well enough. And I'm like, this isn't the way I thought I would feel. I thought I would feel like, this is what I want. I'm going to come after this. But I just feel, it's a house. It's a nice house, but I've got a house too.
You realise okay, so my one was exactly, we had, like you said, similar experience. I was in an apartment recently, a studio apartment in Australia, 108, which is tallest building in Australia. And
so the Eureka's not the top?
Yeah, no, Eureka's second. Technically, it's the second tallest building in Australia. The first tallest is the one in the Gold Coast, but that's only the tallest because it's got this long needle spire. So no one really counts it. Yeah. This is the tallest building in Australia, and it is beautiful. Like if you look at some of the, not studios, they have a few like penthouses in there that are incredible. Exactly what you would expect, but regardless, I rock up into one of these studio apartments. It's got a pillar running through floor to ceiling windows around one whole side of the apartment, overlooking the whole city. So you can see not just the beach and whatnot, but everything across it, looking straight to botanical gardens. Everything like fantastic in terms of facilities and whatnot. Really, really incredible. And I rock up there. I was on my own for the first maybe like 1 hour. And I was greeted by the beautiful view, the clean modern facility, blah, 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 everything up to date with the fashion. And I looked out and straight away I'm like, this is so not it. I'm like, it's amazing and I would love to have it. It's actually one of my goals. I was visualizing like, okay, I would like to buy an apartment in this building or something similar one day. But I knew straight away, this is just not it. This is not the thing that is going to bring you happiness. As gay as it sounds, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I'm not happy because I'm here. Like, happiness is from the journey, the progress, going through the chaos and the trials and making progress and achieving things, and also community and having people there. And even then feeling that on my own there as well, even for that hour, I was like, imagine being super rich, coming back to this beautiful, beautiful studio apartment every evening on your own. You like what? Put on Netflix and just do nothing? I go, it's so obvious and so easy for people. It actually makes you can see how it makes it feel hollow and shallow, because you go, there's no substance to this. It's all just creation. That's why they say it's so like surface level. It's just all creation, something that someone's made, paint, some materials, blah, 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 bang, view. And you're like, this is so shallow. It's like, there's no real substance to this at all. Now, does it mean you can have it and if you have it, you're not going to be happy? No. Okay, when I have that, it's going to be, I know I'm going to be happy because it's going to just be part of the process. It's going to be part of the process. But it's like, if you make that your goal, as okay, I'm not happy right now in life, I need to get this beautiful apartment, then I'm going to be happy. It's so obvious that when you get it, you're not going to be happy. You got it, and then it's going to be, it's so empty. It doesn't give you anything. That comes from relationships, community, progress, goals, achievement. That's where that comes from,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the biggest advice that you always get when you first decide to start a business. You always have to think about why you're starting the business. Yeah. Because you have to know straight away that if you're going to start a business, you have to be in it for the long run. It's not going to happen. You're not going to be a millionaire overnight. And so you have to think about, if I'm going to start this business, I'm going to want to enjoy and love the industry, product or service that I'm going to get involved with. Because if you're not, and if you only want to do it to make the money, you're not going to last for one, and two, you will be miserable.
And that's why people sometimes that start the best businesses are those that started as a challenge.
Yeah. Like it wasn't supposed to be a business. They just liked doing it, and then it turned into it. Yeah.
There you go.
They're the ones that last and make big things. Like Ray Dalio, that's a perfect example.
And look at his as well. He had many ups and downs and pits and falls, and look at where he's turning now. Very philanthropic. And I was listening to someone talk about him, and he was saying how he's only come into the public eye since his book's been written. Before then, he was a very, very private individual. It was Tony Robbins saying, he goes, before then, because Ray Dalio had seen him well before he had put the book out, Because everyone in the financial world knew of him, knew he was very switched on. Everyone knows about Warren Buffett. This guy probably has more money than him, just based on, he definitely does if you look at his company. But what's his personal money is different. And he goes, he was a very, very private individual, but he went through the metamorphosis that everyone does and that he talks about. When you come out of on the other side, you go, okay, it's my turn now to give back. And I feel like what he's given back in that book, Principles, is much more valuable than anything financially or any foundation he could set up. Because that book itself gives you a process to living that is so beneficial. Goal, make mistake, review, reflect, learn from it, and go on.
Yeah. Progress from there. Yeah. Yeah, that's a crazy one, isn't it? You always have to. I feel like everyone's got the same. If you look at life as a study, if I was to study what a perfect life is and what an average life is, what happens throughout life in each sort of age group, it's very similar to everyone else. If a perfect one was that I'm born and from birth to 18, let's say, when I'm sort of self-sufficient at that stage. Yeah, I'm raised by my parents. I take as much influence from them and from my environment as I can. I get to around 18, I'm sort of self-sufficient. I start making and choosing my own friends and my own sort of interests and paths. I listen a little bit less to my parents and make my own way. And then I find whatever this craft is that I want to start to journey on. And the book Mastery that I'm reading at the moment by, I think, Robert Greene, talks about this a lot. So you become an apprentice in what it is that you want to get involved in. So I have my trials and tribulations as I'm learning this craft. Let's say it's fighting. I'm getting my ass kicked here and there. I'm learning, traveling, and then I get better, a little bit better. I become world champion, and from there I have a beautiful long career. And then after that's done and I'm wealthy and famous, then it's my time to give back. Yeah. So you always have that sort of same beginning, middle, and end to everything. You have to give back towards the end, because if you don't give back, that's your journey towards when you're giving back.
And you understand it
more fulfilling,
that's part of the process, and you understand it more and more as you go. Like I was talking about earlier, there being different levels in things. As you go to another level, you go, okay, but you hear the same stuff the whole time. It's just that certain things will resonate with you at a different time. So one of the first motivational videos I watched was Arnold Schwarzenegger talking about his rules to success. And I'm sure a few people have seen it, and one of them, he goes, give back. Now at the time you think about it and you go, yeah, of course, give back. Cool.
What I'm trying to get.
But even though you accept it as a thing, you go, I will give back, that'll be a goal. But it doesn't really resonate, or it didn't really resonate with me until recently, when I was like, wow, this is going to be a very important part of the whole process. And you realize as you crack through more and more levels and barriers, there's always another thing. Let's say you get super disciplined and organized, and that's been your goal, and suddenly you're super disciplined and organized. You will hit another stage where you're like, well, what now? Because it's like, there are other things that you'll need to do to continue to feel fulfilled. You need to crack more levels. So maybe you look at your own persona, like how you speak, how you hold yourself. You got to start looking at more things, because each thing that was so difficult to you, you realize, okay, once you actually accomplish it, you go, well, what now? Those things, you realize chasing those things, chasing the discipline and the organization is actually more fun than actually having it. But then you got to have it and be like, okay, now I've got it. How do I maintain it, not let it drop? And how do I use it to help me get other things? And each other thing that you get is like harder and harder to get, and also, but more and more worthy. That's why when people talk about things like introspection and stuff, and then, or just other things in terms of success, and you go, why are people worrying about those things now? Because they're ahead of the game. Like when Israel Adesanya was talking about him seeing a sports psychologist early, that shows he's ahead of the game. He knows that there are things he's going to get to a certain level where these things are relevant. How you feel mentally about your own success. Those are relevant things to be able to look forward and do those things early shows you.
Yeah, that's true. What was I going to say? I was going to say, it seems like when you're at this sort of young athletic stage in your life, from let's say 20 to 35, you have this 15-year window to be as physical, and you're like a little rubber ball, you're bouncing around, you're not really getting too injured, you do what you want, and you really need to amplify and explore that to its fullest depth, because there's going to become a certain stage when you lose that. And then you have to be all mental. You have to be all mental after that and use your brain after it, So it's sort of like you've got to pick what it is at each phase of your life. There's no point of me being, I want to be an academic from 20 to 35, and then from there on, I'm thinking about being an athlete. You have to do it in some sort of linear fashion. And I was thinking, that's why I sort of think about the idea of, because again, if you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, you understand. There's one point that Master Roshi wants to help, but he's about 60 years old and he can't anymore. So his help has to be from guidance. You can't go in there physically anymore. But this is where I think about the argument for the cybernetic enhancements, because then it's like, have you ever heard the quote that the youth is wasted on the young?
Yeah.
Because when you're older is when you respect it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You only respect your youth when you're older. You know what I mean? You wish you had it then because you probably use it better. And I always think about that. What if I could give youth to the old with cybernetic enhancements? Is my way of thinking.
Like altered carbon even.
Yes, like altered carbon. You can swap out your sleeves, get a new body when you're old. And it's like I'm young again. Yeah. So I'm 60, let's say I'm 80 on my deathbed. And then I'm actually wealthy and pretty switched on. I buy a 20-year-old body and I'm back again. Now I've got my youth and I can explore and probably even enhance the world better because of that. And I think about that a lot. I've also been thinking, obviously because of what I went through with my leg, I was thinking a lot about cybernetic prosthetic limbs, where I can, like the robotic prosthetic limbs. There's a few companies that are already doing this, sort of primitive. It's not the best, but connecting. Have you heard of a thing called phantom limbs?
Oh, when your arm is like cut off at a certain point, you can still feel.
Yeah. It happens a lot with people that are not people that are born with it. So if you're born without an arm, you're probably not going to experience it. But if I lived 30 years, got my arm cut off, I experienced phantom limbs. So the nerve endings, wherever it is you lose it, usually from the elbow down, let's say. So from the elbow down, my nerve tissue around my elbow joint can still feel and has that like muscle memory, but in the nerves, that I can feel what it'd be like to have a hand and a forearm and that. So I feel injured sometimes. I'm reaching and it's not there. Or I feel like I hit my own arm or whatever. If you experience those things, but those are actually the best candidates for these new prosthetic limbs because the memory is still alive in the nerves. I can attach a bionic limb and I attach the nerve endings through to the wires, and it actually, I don't know how it works, but I can move the robotic hand with my own nerve endings and mind, because it's like I already had it. So with those things, it's like I'm getting a cybernetic arm. And I think it's beneficial. It's still sort of early and primitive, but it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Anyway, I just keep thinking about that a lot because of my own leg, and I thought about the benefits it would bring me and others. But I think if you could give that to people that were
elderly,
and so much more capable of using it for a better way.
Because they'd also appreciate it to a higher degree. Like just think about the fact that we started our day today early, we went to the park, hit some pads, 8:15 a.m. and came back. There's going to be a time where it's like, to wake up, your bones will be hurting because it's cold, and you're like, oh, you can't just spring up and jump into a pad session. It's like, those things are real.
Yeah.
And if you get to that stage, you'll appreciate it so much that you'll be very, very, you'll use it correctly. Yeah.
It's interesting. But at the same time, I don't ever want to lose my humanity because that's what makes us. So it's like, there's a very fine line. I mean, it's probably not really much use worrying about. It's probably not going to happen in our lifetimes, but it's still interesting to think about because there's still things that you can go through. It's sort of like we're in the Goldilocks period of everything. We can see where we had it beforehand. We didn't have this interruption beforehand.
It wasn't even a consideration.
Yeah, so we had a blessed sort
existence.
of
it's like they say
child life.
When they say ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, exactly like that. And now we're seeing the preliminary stages, and we're sort of seeing how it's turning out, and we've had enough advancements that you can foresee what's going to happen. And it's like, well, we're in the perfect sort of stage, really.
And it's like when people are talking about that whole age and experience thing, that's why anyone who has the privilege of youth needs to use it to do some real, very important things, because there will definitely come a time where we're gonna wish we could have this time back. And that's why I really don't want that to happen. And that's why I'm making sure I try and do everything I can to experience and live and go through this existence with everything that I want. That's why you have to put yourself in a perspective of, okay, one day the time will have been spent and I'll be at a certain place anyway. What would I rather? Have gone through something safely and stuck to the actual system. We could talk about the system all day, but there is one. And if you stick to it, things will generally be okay, but you won't have experienced too much. It'll be pretty general. Or a real existence, pursuing some things, accomplishing some things, going through it. That's why the chaos, the hard times, the negatives, the struggles, they're all a part of it, because you go, this is the things I'm going to enjoy. I'm enjoying along the way. And then you get there to that age and you can look back at a 23-year-old and be like, you know what? I don't envy him. I'm pretty happy with what I've done. Like I really went out there and tried a lot of things, experienced a lot of things. I'm glad. But I'm pretty sure if I had just gone to law school, finished my law degree, not that there's anything against that, that could be a different person's dream, but it wasn't mine. Finished it, lawyer, had my own firm. I know that I'm definitely capable of that, and I reckon I could have done really well with it in terms of self-belief. But I would have sat there for sure, let's say 70, maybe even still working. There are 70-year-old lawyers that just don't want to leave. You look at some young 23-year-old running across a park and be like, fuck, if I could go back, would I stick to fighting? Would I have started a business, a company? Would I have traveled around and tried to do something really, really great? Because yes, there's more risk to it and things are going to happen that you're going to have to kind of suffer through. They're not going to be fun. Struggles and failures especially, especially if you don't learn to embrace them, they can really be your demise, because you get demoralized. Okay, it's not going to be easy, but I think I would have done that. So that's literally where I was at, and I was like, but to be honest, it's never been much of a choice because I've always just done what I wanted, and you have as well.
Yeah, you have to. Bro.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, I want to do this. As soon as I felt that I was wanting to fight, I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna fight then. Bang, and there you go.
Yeah, that's the most simple thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you just sort of get in your own way about things. I always feel like whatever it is that's in your head right now that you feel you want to do it until it's dead.
Yeah.
Like, kill it until it's dead.
Simple as.
Until you're done with it, and then you're like, every time I think about that pathway of thinking, I always go back to the Game Is Life book, the first book, where what's her name? It's True, and who's the girl?
I forgot.
Doesn't matter. But anyway, the girl in that book, she does exactly that. She plays games until she clocks the game, and then she stops. So that she starts off in karate, and she gets so good in karate that she's like, oh, I'm bored, I'm done. Oh, that's what's next. And then she's like, oh, I'd really like to do this. Health. Yeah, I'll learn. She goes into Eastern medicine and stuff. But whatever it is that pops up in your head, you're like, man, I'd really like to do that. Just do that until you're sick of it, and then do something else. Yeah. And I feel like that should be the journey of life.
Simple as,
not... Because it's always like, I don't want to plan for my whole life because I'm not sure if I'm going to be around forever. But at the same time, I want to plant a few seeds to make sure I'm okay. I'm not going to be stupid about it. But I don't want to dive into that. I would rather dive into here and now, what I like right now, and just embrace it.
And that's called taking risk. And that's why people who are risk averse won't have maybe as many of those experiences. Because the less risky path, although it is actually the same level of risk in my opinion, is the one most traveled. But it's pretty basic and pretty straightforward.
That always brings you to the Jim Carrey quote. You know how he's talking about his dad?
Yeah.
How he's like, my dad, because his dad was an accountant. He says, and he got laid off as an accountant. He said, you can
follow the system and the rules.
You can fail at something you don't love doing, so you might as well take a chance at doing something you love. Do you know what I mean?
So true.
So he got himself in a dead-end job, and it failed for him. It wasn't his choice, but he got failed in that, and he failed at it. So it's like, why not take a chance in doing something you love? And that reminds me of everything that's happening now with this whole Corona thing. Because how many people are spewing? They're like, I've been laid off. It's bullshit. I hate it. But it's like, well, isn't that your fault?
Exactly. Because look at this. Look at you and look at me. Let's say that like we both have lost whatever positions. Let's say that none of my clients are going to do any PTs, and there's well, guess what? The person that was an accountant or whatever is going to be in the same position.
Exactly.
So,
and who's more bummed out?
The past, and even if you just look at, let's say it all ends right now. Well, the past 2 years have been pretty fun.
That's a good way.
Accomplished a lot. I'm not mad at that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas other guys are like, fuck, it's all ended right now. I might as well have gone and just played that basketball game that I wanted and tried to really become good at basketball and pursue that. And
exactly. That's a good way. I wasn't thinking like that. So that's a good way. So if you were, let's say you've been in somewhat of a dead end job for the last 2 years, and you're doing it for the cash. Yeah, I get it. But let's say that right now everything's stopped. No one's ever working again. Did you like that 2 years compared to someone that maybe wasn't earning as much but they enjoyed it?
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Well, yeah, that's it.
Done.
Easy as.
Was that episode 7? Episode 7 of Play One Podcast.
Finito.